Hello students. This week's lecture we're going to be talking about product management. This is a topic that I'm especially interested in because this is one of the jobs I used to do when I worked for Jack in the Box. As I mentioned in prior lectures, I managed the breakfast line for the company. So product managers typically are responsible for two things. One is launching new products for the company, taking that product from idea stage to actual system rollout. And that's where we're going to be talking about the new product development process in those 5 stages that a company goes through. And then the other thing that product managers are responsible for, or once a product is launched, they're also responsible for managing a whole line of products for the company, and they act as subject matter experts for that particular line of products for the company. So let's dive in. So really just one primary learning objective for this week's lecture, and that's to really understand the 5 steps of the new product development process. And what I'm going to be lecturing on, and what you should also know as a learning objective, is what activities are happening at each step of this 5-step process. So when we talk about product managers are common in large companies. So large companies like packaged food companies that have a lot of different products, car companies, anybody who has a vast array of products. And you might think, what about Amazon? They must have a ton of product managers. Well, they're not making those products. Amazon is just selling those products. So they probably do have product managers within the company that are managing different categories of the products that they sell, and they're probably subject matter experts, meaning whoever oversees the electronics division is an expert on all things electronics, but wouldn't know anything about like Amazon Prime streaming video or other products that they sell, like household stuff. But when we talk about product managers within a company, these are companies that are responsible for creating products. And product managers have top line sales responsibility, meaning they're the ones who oversee talking to customers, gathering market research, looking at data, seeing what competitors are doing, and figuring out what types of new products the company should be launching to serve their target audience. And they take a team of people to help them launch these new products. So product managers typically manage what's called a cross-functional team, and these are folks from all different departments of the company: purchasing and marketing and operations, quality assurance, etc. And the folks on that team take that idea, for whatever that idea is, for a new car or a new type of computer, or in my case a new fast food sandwich, and take that idea from an idea to actual selling it and rolling it out in all of your, in my case, restaurants. So they tend to be common in large companies. They're experts within their particular product line category, and they manage teams of people to take products from idea to actual system rollout. And they do that by walking through the 5-step new product development process. And that's really the bulk of what we're talking about in this lecture. So when we talk about the new product development process, you see the 5 steps here. I had to shift them over to the left so you could still see my face. So that exhibit 9-4 is if you're using older versions of the textbook. That refers to chapter 9. So this is a zero-cost textbook course, so you don't need the textbook. But if you do a Google image search for a new product development process, you'll see different versions of these same 5 steps all over the internet. So these are the 5 steps. First, you have idea generation. So the company has to be set up to have some type of pipeline and machine, not a machine, a literal machine, but a process for generating ideas for the company. And I'll share some examples of how we do it at Jack in the Box in a minute. So they have to generate all these ideas. Maybe they're trying to come up with a new breakfast sandwich for the company, and they come up with 100 ideas. That's the idea generation phase. That's the first step. The second step is they have to screen or filter those ideas down. So maybe they originally have 100 ideas, but they want to look at those ideas from the standpoint of which one fit our company brand, which one can we execute profitably, which one, do we have the strengths in this area to produce. So maybe those original 100 ideas, they get down to a shorter list through the screening phase of where they just have 10 ideas. And I'll provide an example of that again when we get to that specific slide. Those first two steps, idea generation and screening, are pretty much internal, meaning it's the company that's coming up with ideas, and it's the company that's kind of screening and thinking about which ideas are going to be the best that customers are most likely to like. They haven't really engaged customers yet in the evaluation process of what products they actually want out of all these ideas that they have. That brings us to stage 3, which is idea evaluation. So in the idea evaluation stage, now the company is actually talking to customers and getting their feedback on these new products. They might be doing some focus groups or some actual market testing, but here you're actually starting to get feedback from the customers. So maybe 100 ideas in idea generation, and that through the screening you come down with 10 ideas. You take those 10 ideas forward to customers, and then out of that you maybe come up with 1 or 2 of your top picks. These are the ones that they're most interested in, and you proceed to step 4, which is development. So in development, you're taking it beyond like a concept idea where you maybe just showing the customer pictures and words, or you're only testing it in one little small market. You haven't really bought all the stuff you need to produce this product mass scale. That's where step 4, development, comes in. So in step 4, development, now the company's really starting to spend some serious money as they gear up to produce this product. So they're doing a larger scale test, and they're working with suppliers to find out what the exact costs are going to be to produce this thing. They've got some projections of sales. This is all in the development phase. And then in the 5th step, the product manager kind of steps back at this stage, and it's the responsibility of the other folks on his product team to take it to commercialization. So commercialization is when they actually roll the product out. So in a fast food restaurant, this means we have to train, 2,500 restaurants on how to make this new sandwich. We have to get all of these new ingredients into all of our distribution centers. We have to have training materials produced. We have to have marketing materials like TV commercials and restaurant posters and other materials, menu slides and all this kind of stuff produced. We have to purchase the actual materials, set it up in our registers, all of these things. So that's where the different people within the product team, their specialties like information systems and purchasing and marketing, they take the football for those separate pieces and get the product launched on a specific date. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of deadlines, a lot of stress. So, there's a reason I was a product manager for a while, and there's a reason why I left product management. It's tough, it's demanding, but you do get compensated very well. You have top line sales responsibility for the company. So if you're launching new products and they're increasing the sales of your company, you're probably going to be pretty handsomely rewarded for that, because your bonus is oftentimes tied to those new product sales. So let's dive into each of the 5 steps in more detail so you can understand what's happening at each of the steps. So the first step is idea generation. So companies have R&D, research and development departments, and part of what they do is come up with new ideas. Look at a company like Google Alphabet, the parent company, and all the different businesses that they're in and all the bets they're placing on all these different types of new technologies. So driverless cars and Google Glass. And so these are all ideas that they're generating for entirely different companies. But take an individual company, and they're also have some type of idea generation machine. You can look, for example, at the mystarbucksidea.com website, and you can see what Starbucks does. They have a website where customers can go in and input product ideas, which is a great idea for Starbucks. They get customer ideas for free. They don't have to pay people for it, and the customers get to feel engaged, like, hey, my idea got launched. So you can get ideas from customers through surveys or through social media feedback. You can conduct independent market research, trend research. There's lots of secondary resources out there that you can read. Updates on consumer purchasing patterns. Certainly, competitors are a key source for idea generation. So research and development is coming up with your own ideas. There's this other concept called search and development, which is you're searching for what are the competitors doing and how can we do a similar but not copyright infringement version of that product. So you should be aware of what competitors are doing at all time, what's happening in other markets, even internationally, and also what's going on within the company. One idea generation campaign that we did at Jack in the Box when I was there was called "What Would Jack Do?" And the idea there was, if you're an employee of Jack in the Box who works in the kitchens, you probably have figured out how to make some new interesting products that maybe you cook up and eat on your lunch break. So we did a contest at all of our restaurants where company employees could submit ideas for new products. And they would submit those ideas through and we would evaluate them at the company, at the corporate office. And the folks, like the top 3 products that we took forward, those employees got some compensation and some recognition. So we got all kinds of crazy ideas, like a Hashy Jack, which is a hamburger with a hash brown put on top of it, right? That sounds pretty good. So we ended up having to pull that campaign because the what would Jack do with some of the Christian community. We had bracelets that we gave to our employees who participated with WWJD on it. And, there was another use for those bracelets in the WWJD, which is what would Jesus do? So they weren't too happy with us using that campaign. So we ended up having to pull that campaign and get rid of the bracelets. But we got a lot of good ideas out of it, nevertheless. So first step is you have to have the company set up for some way of generating ideas. Social media, surveys in your locations, stuff on your website for people to submit questions. You can even do something called looking at the data exhaust. So data exhaust is when people are on your company website and you have a little search bar within the website, people are searching for things. I'm looking for this product or that product. I'm certain that Amazon has a very robust data exhaust research piece. So they're basically not looking at like just keyword search, which you can also do that in marketing, but this is looking at within your own website, how are people searching within your website? That's called data exhaust. So the second step is screening. As I was saying at the beginning of this lecture, maybe you have 100 ideas that come out of idea generation, but you got to screen them down, kind of have a what's realistic evaluation as to which ideas you want to consider to take forward. So a common way that companies will screen is through a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's basically saying, okay, we have all these ideas. Which ones do we as a company have strengths in, what we have to offer that we could actually execute this product and be successful? What are we weak at? So how does it fit with our overall company objectives? What's our last bullet point there? What's our return on investment going to be? Can we make this thing profitably? What are the trends? I'll give you an example here. When I was at Jack in the Box running the breakfast category, smoothies were becoming a popular category, and especially breakfast smoothies. So we had seen that, I believe it was Sonic at the time, had a breakfast smoothie that they were selling. that seemed to be selling well, and the smoothie operators like Jamba Juice were doing pretty well selling smoothies. And so we looked at it as Jack in the Box in our idea generation work. Hey, maybe we should get into the smoothie business. You know, we already have all of our restaurants. We have the ability to train our employees to make anything. We have shake machines already. So we have the ability to execute smoothies. Um, Weaknesses and fitting with objectives. We're not really known for smoothies at Jack in the Box. We're kind of known for, hey, it's 2 a.m. and there's still time to make one more bad decision. Let's go to Jack in the Box and order 20 tacos because we've had too much to drink or something else. So it doesn't really fit with the brand and the objectives of the company, right? That people don't think of Jack in the Box as being healthy. So even though we could make that product, there's an issue of should we make that product. So you have to be careful as a company, and that's part of the screening process because trends come up all the time and fads, and companies are like, we should get into this line of business. Everybody's in this line of business and they're killing it. But sometimes if you enter a new line of business, you kind of water down your brand and what people expect you to be, and you can actually kind of upset your core customer base if you start extending out into these different product categories that aren't what you're really about. For an example, if you're Harley Davidson been making motorcycles forever. They're one of, if not the oldest motorcycle companies in the world. And you know what's popular nowadays? Mopeds. I call them mopeds, but scooters, you know, freeway legal, high miles per gallon, Vespa looking scooters. Could they make them? Absolutely. Should they? Probably not, right? So it doesn't fit the Harley Davidson brand with big, rugged, masculine bikes. You know, and if they started making that, that's going to damage the Harley Davidson brand a little bit. So that's part of what the screening process is about. Step 3 is idea evaluation. So now you're getting reactions from customers. So we're thinking of selling these products. Which ones do you like? A common thing that companies will use is what's called a concept sort. And if you look in the Jack in the Box slides under market research, which was last week's lecture, you'll see some pictures of concept sorts in there. And that's basically pictures of potential products and some descriptions of those products, and getting customers' feedback through focus groups and other market research, and which ones rise to the top, which of these concepts sort out to the top versus the bottom to consider for going forward. That's a concept sort. But you haven't actually made the product yet. So you're just getting customers' reactions to the idea. You're also starting to talk more seriously with all of your suppliers. Hey, we're thinking of making X. And they're going to ask, well, how many are you planning to sell? And your response is, we don't know, we haven't sold it yet. So you're trying to get some rough estimates of what's it going to cost to make this thing. And that's going to vary based on the estimated volumes, more volume, bigger discounts on your materials, etc. So, and you haven't sold it before, so how do you actually project what your sales are going to be? So you have to look at, like, here's some other products we sold in this category that when we launched, they did about this kind of sales. You know, maybe we can try to get some intelligence from competitors and how they're doing with their new product sales. So you're trying to get some rough ideas as far as how profitable this product is going to be. And based on that, there's tweaks that you might have to make before you even take this product to test. So, wow, some of these ingredients are really expensive. We're going to have to make this sandwich smaller, things of that nature. So stage 3, you're starting to spend some of the customer's money because you're actually talking to customers and doing some pretty specific market research in this stage. So step 4 is development. If in step 3, you're doing idea evaluation, you're talking to customers. In step 4 in development, you're actually selling to customers. So now you're actually testing your marketing mix, which means you might do a small market test in a market to kind of see how it does there. If you had advertising and marketing support behind it, like if you're going to sell it for real, that's what we mean by testing the marketing mix. And through those that market test and the sales in that market test, now you're getting a more specific idea of what the actual sales are going to be. So your return on investment, how profitable is this product going to be, would be determined kind of in the development phase. And you might find out, you might get a product from idea generation to screening to idea evaluation, and then in step 4, you do an actual market test, and the product flops. It might not do well. And even though people said they liked it and wanted to buy it, when you actually go to sell it, maybe the pricing is too expensive, or something else happened with competing products, or customer preferences change. All of a sudden, people aren't eating turkey anymore because some news came out that turkey's now bad for you. So things can change. So the development stage is kind of the last step before you actually plan to go to a full rollout. Which brings us to step 5, commercialization. So now you've done all your research and you've decided this is the product, this is the one we're going for. The development phase, customers loved it, the market test is through the roof, sales are fantastic. So now you're ramping up and you're buying everything you need to roll this product out system-wide. So for example, at Jack in the Box, a market test could be in a market like San Diego, which has about 200 stores, believe it or not. I think 180 stores in the San Diego market. But now you're going to be launching it to the entire company, which is closer to about 2,600 restaurants. So you're starting your production. If it's a car company, now you've gone through your concept, where you're showing the car at car shows as a concept car. People like it. Maybe you did it in a market test in a small little international market. And now you're getting ready to commercialize. So you're ordering all the stuff. You've cleared your crash test and all the safety requirements. And you're starting to production. So at this stage, you really are spending a lot of the company's money to buy everything and gear up and train and get the stuff into your distribution channels and start rolling it out. You can roll out all at once, which is a complete rollout, or you can do a staged rollout where you start rolling it out in certain markets as you go along. And that's the last step. And at this step, usually the marketing, the product manager who's overseeing the launch of this product kind of steps back, and the other folks are kind of shepherding the product through. And then the product launches, it's successful, you're a hero, you're making some good money with bonuses, you get a pat on the back from the company, and what's next? You move right on to another product. The product, the timing that it takes to launch products is pretty long. So at Jack in the Box, just to take a simple thing like a sandwich with maybe a dozen ingredients between sauces and buns and all the other stuff, or half a dozen ingredients, to take it from an idea to an actual system rollout, it's at least a year, sometimes 2 years. If there's new ingredients, we might have to hire a new processing facility to make our ingredients, right? And there's also food safety stuff that has to clear guidelines. Think if you're a car company and clearing all the safety requirements, the thousands of parts that go into making a car that you're getting from all these different vendors to put all that together. It's 4 years plus to take a concept car to an actual rollout. So you can see why sometimes car companies seem like they're behind. Like, why aren't they making more electric cars? Or, wow, I can't believe the Hummer, they're still making Hummers, and why didn't they make them smaller? No one's buying big, giant gas guzzling vehicles anymore. It's because it takes a while for companies to shift, this very kind of long scale product launch cycle. Okay, so that's the 5 steps of the new product development process. I hope now you understand 1, the 5 steps, and 2, what's happening at each of those steps. So for review here, we just covered the second bullet point, the new product development process. And at the beginning of this lecture, I also explained the first bullet point there of what product managers do. So that's it for this week's lecture. You've got some assignments related to the new product development process. So you can check out these assignments that are listed here on this slide. Thank you for listening.